So we're a little ahead of time, but we're going to go ahead and start our panel discussions today. Our first one is from a group of Montana manufacturing leaders. I'd like to introduce and have them come to the stage. We have Ken Hanna, Director of Operations with Applied Materials, Mark Rinaldi, President and CEO of BioSqueeze, Lance Nearby, CEO of Montana Silversmiths, Lamont Cotter, Vice President of Manufacturing Operations for Westpaw, and our moderator today is Patty Fleming, Director of the Montana Manufacturing Association.
Well, thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate you being up here. I'm Patty Fleming with Montana Manufacturing Extension Center. I am not Alistair. He's over there. Had to get you that one in on you, Jim. Also, Hill County, Montana is named after James J. Hill, and there's a statue of James Hill. And there's a great biography written about James J. Hill by Mike Malone, anybody remember Mike Malone? He was president of Montana State University in the 90s. So, our first panel, we're going to talk about leadership, and that's a very tough word to define. So we've kind of separated it. So the first part, we're going to talk about individual leadership, and then we're going to talk about leadership for a company. So our first question, and I guess we can start with Mr. Rinaldi. How did you personally become a leader in the Montana manufacturing ecosystem?
Well, loaded question. So one, I would not suggest I belong up in this panel on manufacturing excellence, but how I did get to my position, I came to Montana many years ago to be Dean of the College of Business at MSU. Fell in love with Montana. I did not fall in love with higher education. So after a few years of fighting that battle, decided I'd go back to being an entrepreneur. This is the fifth company in my career that I'm starting. I have not been in manufacturing throughout my career, so this has been new. But my business, BioSqueeze, is based on a technology that came out of Montana State University called biomineralization, and I fell in love with that underlying technology. In order to bring it to market, we have stumbled our way into being a manufacturer. We have very sophisticated equipment that we build in order to deploy our technology. So based out of Butte, Montana, we have developed not only our lab for advancing our technology, but our shop for building our equipment, and of course the engineering team that is advancing this technology on a daily basis. And I'm just having a blast doing it.
Thanks, Mark. Lamont, can you tell us how you first became a leader in manufacturing ecosystem in Montana?
Yeah, I came to Montana in 2012. I've been in manufacturing for about 23 years now, and mainly in operations. In operations, there's a lot of people, and so had an opportunity to get into leadership early on, and worked for great companies, La-Z-Boy, ATK, part of the Space Shuttle program, and then came up here to help manage the Blackhawk operation in Manhattan, and now I'm with Westpaw. When I was at Blackhawk, I was managing the operations team and had the opportunity to get involved in the community and started working with other manufacturers, mainly around the education piece, to reach out to our local schools. And from that, we formed the Greater Gallatin Valley Manufacturing Partnership, which has turned into the Southwest Montana Manufacturing Partnership. And I had leaders that supported me in that community outreach, and so that's kind of how I got involved in the community of manufacturing in Montana.
Thanks, Lamont. Did you start out and get out of college and say, I want to be a leader in manufacturing?
Actually, I have a political science degree, and I was headed to law school. But the look at what debt would take to get there, we had 3 kids at the time, and so we went into manufacturing. It's been awesome. Love it.
Thanks, Lamont. Lance, how about you? How did you become a leader in Montana's manufacturing ecosystem?
I prayed a lot. No, 2016, I was recruited from Tiffany & Company. I worked out there for 12 years, and I was brought out to Montana Silversmiths, and I saw a level of craftsmanship that is nowhere else on the planet, is what I saw. And coming from this huge organization, $4 billion, down to this small manufacturing group, and the amount of care and focus and drive and diligence and like farmer engineering that exists in Montana was just phenomenal. So I left the big company, and because I had to become a part of this group and learn from them what it takes to be an incredible manufacturing group in this amazing state.
Thanks, Lance. And you didn't start out to be a leader in manufacturing either?
I have this drive that I always have to be building something. And so that's drove me through my BFA in studio art and jewelry, and then I got a master's in metal sculpture in upstate New York. So there's always this underlying drive, I gotta build something. And I turned that into building things into building teams. And because when you build a team, you can build more stuff, is what I found. So that's just been a part of my whole career.
Thank you very much, Lance. Ken, how about you?
So I think my colleagues would say attrition is how I became a leader, but maybe I'll tell a little bit different story. For me, it was really a journey. It's been a 24-year journey in building myself to the leadership position that I'm in today. And for me, it was really about working for a large company the size of Applied Materials. It's not enough to be a good manufacturer, not enough to be a good manager. It really had to learn the entire ecosystem of the organization. So my journey took me entirely through the company. I started in customer service, moved through training, through marketing, through inside sales, inside marketing, outside marketing, through manufacturing, through supply chain. And to me, it was really the ability and the willingness of myself to make those leaps from being a manager back to an individual contributor, back to manager several times, to be able to learn the company holistically. It's so key and so such a huge part of being able to make the important decisions from the big picture perspective. When I make a decision, it's not about operations, it's not about manufacturing, it's about what's right for the entire organization. And I do feel that experience has given me that well-rounded view into the organization to be able to put myself in the leadership position that I'm in today.
Thanks, Ken. Again, we're talking about individual leadership at this point, so we'll go back to Mark. And Mark, I'd like to know if you could tell us about a situation in your career that you learned a very valuable leadership lesson, good or bad.
I'll start with the fact that so over a 35-year period, there's been some great growth, there's been some pain. All the lessons come from the pain. When everything is working, right, you're doubling, tripling revenues, right, you're raising capital, customers are taking your products, you actually start to think that you know something. And so all the problems are kind of lost there. It's the difficult times. Frankly, we're looking at today what's happening in the banking crisis very currently, right? Well, we just lived through one of these a few years ago. Really, awkward time. I had a business, internet content business, and it was doing exceptionally well, except for the fact that we concluded our board meeting in July of what would have been 2008, concluding that things are great. We'll raise money in September. We were going to be out of cash in March of the next year, but why raise money in the summer when everything's going well? And if we might remember, Lehman went under that summer. So raising capital was not available. During that time, I suggest the real lesson I learned on that was transparency. I had an organization, we were very, very clearly running out of capital, and took the approach of sharing with the organization on a monthly basis the full balance sheet, the income statements, total transparency on where the company was, what our OOC date was, right, out of cash date, and work together as an organization to survive that time. We did so without anyone choosing to leave the company. Pretty thrilled about that, and we were fortunate enough to find a way to keep the business alive long enough until we could raise capital in the fall of that year. We actually missed payroll on a Friday afternoon and raised our capital on Monday, which is how close it came to falling apart. But I suggest that that aspect of don't treat people like mushrooms, right? Don't leave them in the dark, right? Share everything. Let them know where you're going, what your resources are, what your challenges are. Be painfully honest with your organization, and they'll respond in kind.
Great lesson. Thanks a lot, Mark. Lamont, how about you? Good or bad?
So I think my greatest learning moments have come out of growth. That seems to be where the challenges really kind of come together. And I had an opportunity to be assisting at the plant manager when kind of overnight demand really dropped on the plant and just incredible growth was needed, and we just really struggled. The few metrics we were tracking weren't very effective, and there was a lot of chaos. Turnover went really high. And there was a change made, and a new leader came in, and I was able to execute, the things that he brought together. So I learned really quickly from him, and he brought in calmness, and he brought in a system and a process, and he had trusted this process. He'd seen it work. He had effectively implemented it in other opportunities, and so I was able to execute that and work hand in hand with him, and I learned a ton doing that. I learned that you have to, through your experience and learning, understand what really works and what's effective, what systems and processes, what methodology really is effective, and you have to develop your own plan. And I just saw the calmness that brought and the growth that we started to see, and we became an effective team. We were able to rally around the tasks ahead of us. So I learned a ton through that experience. I've since developed my own methodology and processes, very much aligned, and some other things that I've learned beyond that. But you always have to be learning and then capturing your learnings, developing your method and your process as a leader.
Great advice. Thanks, Lamont. Lance, how about you?
Ego.
Good.
Learning how to set your ego aside. And so for me, brand new vice president of Montana Silversmiths Operations Group, come out to Montana, think I'm a big shot. Turns out I'm not. Because I enter into negotiation with UPS, and they're a behemoth, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And so about halfway through that, it's going terrible. We're going to get a worse contract going forward than what we had before. And then I started asking around, like, who here knows anything about UPS? Turns out our IT director named Steve had worked for UPS for 25 years. And so I say, Steve, you're coming with me. I need help. I can't be the guy in the room that's making this conversation happen because it's not going well. So I stopped and I asked for help. Steve came in, and we've got the best contract and the best relationship with UPS for the last 5 years because I realized I needed help. It couldn't just be me. I needed a team.
Great lesson. Thanks, Lance. Ken, how about you?
Yeah, for me, it was a positive lesson taught to me, and it was as a very young sailor in the United States Navy. And anyone here that's a previous military or specifically a sailor, you really appreciate this. I had the pleasure of working with a captain by the name of Mike Mullen. Some of you may recognize that name. He went on to become the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for, I believe, President Bush and President Obama. Wonderful leader. He was a third captain that I had served under on the ship. And I thought I understood this young sailor-captain relationship pretty well. And up until that point, my life was, hey, we're going to have a dignitary down here on the ship, so get it clean and please leave. And that was the life we lived. Or we're getting ready to deploy, so make sure the ship's running and all of our gun systems and radars that I took care of were in tip-top shape. And then Captain Mullen came on board, and he changed everything for me and showed me what a leader was instead of just a good manager or a good captain of the boat. He addressed everything and why. If we had a dignitary coming down, he would say, hey, we got Congressman X from the great state of Y, and he is on the Senate Appropriations Committee for Defense, and it is extremely important we make sure he sees the importance of the ship, the mission we're doing, the level of readiness we have, so we can ensure that we have the appropriations to be, operational in the next year. Now, could you guys put on a good show for him, make sure our ship's running, our ship's in good tip-top shape? So all the other captains, they led with what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. Captain Mullen led with why we're going to do it and empowered us to figure out the how and the what. And that really changed my perspective on what a leader was. I mean, I was a very impressionable young man at the time, but that changed for me what the difference between a manager and a leader was. And it created teamwork. It empowered everybody all the way down to the youngest level. when we had I remember an ambassador. I don't remember what country he was from, but I was a nervous young 20-year-old sailor, and ambassador of a country, Captain Mullen, brought him up to me and said, Ambassador so-and-so, this is Petty Officer Hanna. He's going to tell you everything you need to know about our Phalanx gun system. 20-year-old kid, telling an ambassador to a major nation how our gun systems work. It was truly a changing experience of my life, and truly taught me what leadership was about versus just being a good manager or good at what you do.
Thanks a lot, Ken. Next question, gentlemen. Mark first. If you consider you had a room full of 20-year-olds that are about to enter the workforce in manufacturing, how would you advise them to become leaders?
Well, for starters, just do it. Personal story, at 24 years old, I decided I'd start my first company. Went on to be 750 people, and we sold to Singapore Telecom 7 years later. I didn't know what I was doing, and it was literally just the act of saying, let's go do something. And so my brother and I, in a garage, started a communications business. We got lucky. We picked this thing called TCP/IP, which is better known as the internet. And in 1990, we began something that kind of did well. But one, it is I think the choice of being a leader is a conscious one. Invest in yourself. Read every book you possibly can. Take on responsibility. I talk about swimming, right, like this. Right, you will get promoted after you're doing the job above you. Right, no one has ever just looked across the room and said, Jane's never actually shown competence as leading. I think we should promote her. Right, that doesn't happen. And so, take the leadership positions. The rewards come later. I just want to touch on what Jim commented on during his keynote address. We have lost our manufacturing preeminence over the last 50 years, but I think there's an opportunity to bring it back to the U.S. I think the combination of technology, robotics, right, lowering cost of products. We've seen the weaknesses in our country, having lost our supply chain. I think today is the time. If you're interested in manufacturing and you want to be a leader, I think it's a fantastic space to get into, and I think there's a lot of support around to make that happen.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Lamont, how about you?
Mark, I thought Al Gore invented the internet.
He did. I just took advantage of it.
There you go. I think what Mark said was really good, that you just need to go do it. So there's going to be lots of opportunities. Just be courageous and step forward. Be willing to make mistakes and then learn from them. Be humble. I think what Lance said about ego is really important. That you can't think that you're the expert. Learn from all the people around you. You just got to be a constant learning person, and then someone who's really courageous to go out and try and lead people. That's the hardest thing I've ever done as a father. It's extremely challenging. Constantly learning of how to do better, because I always do it wrong, it seems like. That'd be my advice. I love leadership. It's very exciting. Be courageous and go do it, and learn, constantly learn.
Thanks, Lamont. How about you, Lance?
For me specifically, wake up, pray, be the solution, act as if, rest, and repeat. Over and over and over.
Short and sweet. Thanks, Lance. Ken, how about you?
For me, it's, again, that lesson I learned as that young sailor, learn the difference between management and leadership, what a good manager is, what a good leader is. If you truly decide you want to be a leader, then find a business, an organization, an industry that you're passionate about. Solve that why problem. Why do you want to go do it every single day? It makes things a lot easier. Then for me, it was aligning myself with good mentors. Find leaders and mentors that you can look up to, you can lean on, that will help you, guide you through the journey, because for most of us, it's a journey. And then the other key thing, which is really near and dear to my heart, becomes super near and dear to my heart the last few years, is learn project management. Every industry, the entire ecosystem that we live in is so rapidly evolving into project management led industries. Everything is project management led. And as you become a good project manager, those tools and techniques that you learn to become a good project manager change how you view life. Paul Gladden and I think he's probably out here somewhere, him and I one evening coined the phrase project management as a lifestyle. It really is. I mean, it changes everything you do in life and changes how you view leadership and how you become a leader in life, because you just look at the world differently. So, determine why you want to do it, fill that why in your life, and then figure out the how and the what's, and be a good project manager. Grab some mentors and look towards them and use them.
Thanks a lot, Ken. Boy, that's some great information you guys put out here in the last few minutes. Now we're going to switch things up a little bit, and we're going to talk about company leadership. And what we mean by that is, how is your company a leader in its industry? So we're going to start off with Mark again, and I'm going to ask Mark, what does it take for a company like yours to be known as a leader in your industry?
Got it. So we have a underlying technology called biomineralization. In many ways, we are a world leader in that technology. So that's a little bit different from some other businesses. We're the very forefront of this technology. We're hoping it's a potentially game changer. But the first product that we've introduced with this is addressing the methane leaks in oil and gas wells. We've identified a way to seal micron-sized cracks in cement that cracks in oil and gas wells that allows the emissions of these greenhouse gases. In order to establish ourselves as a leader in that, it starts with being the best at what we do. We've implemented new pricing strategies where instead of pricing by time or by volume, we fix price and guarantee that we'll solve the customer's problem. That's a form of pricing strategy, pricing leadership. At the technology level, we think we're highly differentiated. We think we're better than the competitors. The proof is being demonstrated right now that we are. And so, delivering a solution to a customer that is highly differentiated, solving their problem. We are the most expensive at what we do. We're value pricing. But again, we're solving a problem. We're not just offering a product.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Now, Lamont, we're going to switch to you, which is probably going to be a much different answer than solving a technological problem.
Yeah, I wish Spencer Williams could be here for all of you. He's a fantastic leader. He owns the company Westpaw, founder and owner for 27 years. And he really is a leader in the industry. I think a business that leads sets the tone for the industry. And they set kind of the standard, and it feels like everyone's trying to chase and do what they're doing. I think that identifies a leader in an industry. It's also about how they go about their business. Spencer was the first pet company that became a B Corp. He was founding member of the Pet Sustainability Coalition, which has really coalesced around environmental issues and sustainability and has many members now today that really moves in the industry. He was the first benefit corporation in the state of Montana and was key in getting that legislation passed through the legislature and crafting that, working hand in hand with the legislature, and got that passed. And he has really transformed the industry, and he does a fantastic job of not just providing a great product, but he goes about running a business in a very thoughtful and mindful way, very deliberate on how he does business. And it's been a real privilege for me to be a part of that and to learn from that. And I see a business that leads as doing good in a lot of ways like that, just beyond the product that they make.
Thanks a lot, Lamont. Lance, what's it take for Montana Silversmiths to be known as an industry leader?
First, you're founded by Kent Williams, who's Spencer Williams' dad. So the Williams family has some great genes. They really do. And Kent is a continued mentor of our business. For a company who builds beautiful things, the best way to become a leader is hang out with world champions. So, align yourself with the best in the sports and provide the awards that ensure that that's commemorating the level of achievement that those athletes have put forward. And fortunately enough, we've been able to do that for a long time, and we're going to continue to do it.
Thanks a lot, Lance. Ken, tell us how Applied Materials is a leader in your industry.
Yeah, I looked at this at a little bit different approach. It's being able to react to change. And that's the last 3 years of nothing else has taught us that change is a huge factor in our lives. It's whether your company's dealing with a supply chain crisis, a labor shortage, rapid growth, rapid decline, and it doesn't matter if this change comes from a worldwide pandemic, comes from rapid adoption of a new technology, changing marketplace, changing environments. Be able to react to that change and stay current and stay relevant, I think, is a real key thing to be able to stay alive and be a leader in the industry, especially the semiconductor industry that we're in. Because if you're not on that cutting edge and being able to rapidly adopt a change, then you miss those disruptive moments in the industry where you can capitalize and be able to grow and really take advantage of the opportunities.
Thanks a lot, Ken. Okay, Mark, next question. What are some of the measurable metrics that your company uses to remain a leader?
Yeah, for us, it's success at the client site. Very similar, but to achieve that, right, we have to be, a lot of sub-metrics, right? We've got to deliver highly reliable equipment, right? We've got to advance our underlying biomineralization technology. But the true definition for us is when we go out to Chevron and they've got a well that is leaking methane, can we solve the problem? And do we solve it faster? Are we more efficient? Are we more successful than all other products? I often talk to young entrepreneurs and I talk to my company about you want to be a monopoly, right? That term is often used in a bad sense, right? Of monopolies are being bad. I think of a monopoly as being the ultimate definition of having a great product. If your customer would never choose to select a competitor, you've created a monopoly. And that can be driven by quality, it can be driven by pricing, it can be driven by success, right? There are a lot of ways to get there. But for us, right, we're trying to establish that monopoly that if you've got this particular problem, we're the only solution on the planet.
So you're tracking the success rate on wells, you're tracking how long it takes you to plug the well, and are you tracking costs as well?
Yes, of course we are. The nice thing is that bacteria grow all by themselves, and so we've got just stupid gross margins. Yeah.
Great. And where's your stock sold? Lamont, how about you? What does Westpaw track to ensure that it's an industry leader?
I think the leading KPI that we measure is growth. A successful, healthy company is growing. We measure, both financial growth, but then growth of people. Career paths that happen within the team is really important. Internal advancement and growth. And then, as a manufacturer, we have to manage all 5 of those critical things. We have to balance them equally of safety, quality, delivery, engagement, and cost. And we've got a broad array of metrics within each one of those categories. One, I think that's been, if I was to pick one, they're all equally important, obviously, but continuous improvement, as measurement of engagement has been really valuable for us. We put a process in place of how to work through continuous improvements, and that's from everyone within the plant. And we don't have a problem with getting enough. Our measurement isn't how many we get. Our measurement is how many of those get implemented, and that's where we really struggle. Because we're getting a lot of them, and it's hard to get them all implemented and put into process. So.
Thanks, Lamont. Lance, how about you?
Who in the room is a fan of Jim Collins' book, Good to Great? Okay, hedgehog concept. For us, we measure our success. Our one defining concept and measurement is profitability per jewelry case. And if we look at that, if you've seen Montana silversmiths out in the field, you see a jewelry case, whether it's 2 feet wide or 4 feet wide, and there's 3 300 units of jewelry stacked in there. In the old days, when they would make a decision and they'd say, let's go into leather, or let's come out with a shoe line, or let's come some other dumb idea, it would be reduce your profitability per case, because we know that our sales are higher when we're turning more units on that shelf. So you take a shelf that has 100 pieces of jewelry and replace it with 2 purses. What did you just do? You just shot yourself in the foot for a good idea that turned bad. So for us, profitability per case, but our focus on the financials is really margin. And we have always found a way in the last 4 years to increase our margin, no matter if the global freight prices increase, no matter if global metal prices increase, we're always looking for a way to improve margin. Margin dollars go back into the company, and we're able to fund our growth of our employees and put money back into our equipment and making sure that we have more technology to make their jobs easier. So we just look at profitability per case overall, and then margin going back into the business.
Thanks, Lance. Ken, how about you?
Yeah, for us, again, when I have my operations hat on, it is those core tenets of manufacturing, safety, on-time delivery, quality, cost. Can we cover those metrics, and how well do we cover those metrics? But then when I put my, my big picture hat on, then the one that's a little bit harder to measure but is equally important, I think, to the first 4 is that engagement, that close to the customer, the partnership with the customer. Because if you don't have that, again, your ability to react to change is meaningless, because you don't know the change that's coming to you. Partnering with the customer so you can have that rapid adoption, see the disruption as it's coming in the industry, or be that disruptor to the industry via those close to the customer partnerships.
Thanks, Ken. So how about which of those metrics that you guys have just mentioned do each of you think your company excels at? Mark?
We're a little bit different from the other 3 companies here, right? So, as I said, our metrics are much simpler given where we are at our growth, right? If for my business it's kind of a 1 or 0, right? We're either going to demonstrate that this product is the best at what it does, and we will capture, right, a very big market, or we won't. And so the whole organization today is truly focused on, improving the technology, both at what we build from our pumping systems, so the manufacturing, innovation at the level, innovations in the lab, all resulting in, are we successful in the field? And all the rest, none of the other metrics for me really matter, right? We're venture backed, right? So we've got a lot of capital giving us the time to go figure this out. Once we figure this out, right, then efficiency of our systems will become the most important metric for us. We've got very, very expensive equipment, right? So a $500,000 piece of equipment that drives to a well site. And so keeping that busy on well sites, the unit economics are outstanding. So if we're doing 12 wells a month on a system versus 4 a month, right, is going to be a huge difference. And so that's going to become the real metric for us, and then gross margins.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. So almost asset utilization.
Yes.
Okay. Lamont, how about you?
I think it's probably that continuous improvement metric that I talked about that is one of our indicators of engagement. We've also started something new with MMEC's help, and that's profit velocity. That's growing as a key indicator that's helping us make some really good decisions around product and product lines.
And with that, you're tracking how soon you can convert dollars, inventory into dollars. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's kind of like what you and Mark talked about with asset, profitability. So how quickly can we get product through? What is the right product we want to push through? Kind of to what Lance said about profitability per case. We're looking at these machines, which are a big investment. Are we utilizing them in the very best way?
Great. Lance?
Smiles. So we can't do anything without happy employees, and so that's probably one of our biggest challenges is like we can measure all these things to death, but at the same time, if my turnover increases, we've got training issues then. So for us, it's ensuring that our employees are engaged and that they see a clear path forward to continue to be a good, solid partner with the organization.
So Lance, we also have heard here today about awareness and openness and so forth, and you're talking about profitability per display case. Do you talk that language with all your employees, or is it just your management level?
No, we try to be as open as we possibly can, and so we want everybody to know that as they're moving a widget along, they ultimately contribute to that profitability per case or not. And so it's like the why of why they're doing what they're doing. This is the social economic driver of the success of our business and what we want to do to pour that money back into Columbus.
Great. Ken, how about you? Which one of those metrics are you guys the best at?
Yeah, I'd like to say that it's the close to the customer. I mean, being in a capital equipment industry that's relatively commoditized, if you're not close to the customer, you fall behind very fast. So we maintain pretty good partnerships with our customers, and of course it's always that balance too. You got to be close to the customer, know the customer's needs, but then be able to find a way to balance that with the needs of the organization, because you can't go chasing every single customer's ultimate needs. In other words, you're the tail being wagged by the dog. So I think close to the customer is where we excel. Of course, you got to be good at all those standard metrics as a capital equipment manufacturer, or the close to the customer opportunities are not going to come to you. They're not going to trust you with the opportunity if you're not getting the safety, the on-time delivery, the quality, the cost down.
Great. So I noticed that none of you have mentioned sales per employee, and I think that was kind of a trendy thing 10, 20 years ago. Is that not an issue with you folks anymore?
It's misleading. Because if it's just strict sales per employee, then you're not tracking the true economic driver of your business. The true drivers increase your profitability. So if you're only chasing sales per employee, what does it matter what it costs to make it? You're just increasing revenue, but that has led our company down a very tragic path about 10 years ago. And we've been able to fully recover and do way better because we switched that from sales per employee to let's focus on margin, let's focus on sustainability, and that profit per case.
It would be like tracking utilization in the operation only and not balancing it against inventory levels and things like that.
Anybody else have a comment? So if you had to decide who was the ultimate manufacturing leader in the state of Montana, company-wise, how would you go about it?
Is it pound for pound, or is it global outreach? Because pound for pound, Woods Power Grip owns it.
Why would you say Woods Power Grip?
They are very, very connected to the town that they work in, and so they're very connected to that town. They are engaged with that town. They look at that town as a stakeholder of their company, and they know that they can be successful if that little area is successful.
How about Lamont? What are your opinions?
I think you'd have to look at how successful they've been over time. Do they lead the industry? And then growth, as I mentioned, financial, but also with their people. So, what's their culture like? You need some measurements around their culture, their impact in the community, especially. What kind of good money do they bring into the state? If we were thinking about someone for the state of Montana, how much of that good money do they bring in from out of state and hopefully out of country? Those are the things I would start to look at.
Ken, how about you?
Yeah, same tenets. It's not almost all of us or everybody in manufacturing in the state of Montana. We're all good manufacturers, so we all have those main tenets to be considered the absolute leader. So really to look at who the absolute leader is, it's the same thing. What do you give back to the community? And it's not in the form of dollars, just like you said, be invested in the community, the people of the community. We at Applied Materials had lost that way a little bit over the years, and it's, we're trying to bring that back. You have to be the trusted partner in the community if you're going to be that absolute manufacturer. You just can't be the best for your customers. You also have to be the one that the community can rely on to be a stable employer, a pillar of the community, someone that's going to give back to the community, someone that's going to, and again, that's not just in dollars, that's in people. How do you empower people to go out and be better? I don't think Tom's in the room, but Tom from ATG was one day we were talking, he was absolutely celebrating losing an employee because he had developed that employee and took her, I believe it was from his favorite waitress to one of his top salespeople or implementers, and then losing that employee on in their career. And how awesome is that to be able to celebrate losing an employee because you're putting that person back into the community or back into the industry to just further everybody along. So I think to me that would be the real tiebreaker is, you know, who's doing the most for the community and for the state of Montana for the manufacturing ecosystem.
Wow. Mark, how about you?
One small addition I add to that is which firms are spawning an industry, right? That, you know, we've got in Bozeman, we've got the photonics industry, which has been multiplying, right, itself, attracting more talent in, spawning new innovation. There are multiple companies now, multiple successes. And as you look at various communities around the country, you look at a Research Triangle Park with what they've done with biotech, right? You look at other industries, at Steelcase spawning multiple office manufacturing firms in the same region. Which firms are doing that? Which ones are attracting the talent, creating the right cultures, developing innovation, and encouraging people to move out on their own?
Great answers. At this point, I think we could turn it over for questions, if anybody has any questions for these panelists. I know I do. There's one back there.
Hold on. Hi, my name's Mercedes Bodden, and I'm with Accelerate Montana. And my question was, what does diversity look like in the manufacturing industry here in Montana for you guys?
So for us, when we're talking about diversity in like a tiny town like Columbus, our first goal is to match the diversity of our community. Because it's a very white focused, like there's not much diversity. And so we want to understand the ethnic makeup of our area and ensure we're matching that. Because if we want to just hold all things being equal, we want to be at least we want to look like our community. And that's what our goal is, to look like our community, to make sure that we're ensuring that all people are empowered to work there.
And I think manufacturing has a great opportunity to really lean in on that. Manufacturing takes a lot of people. I don't know how many folks are employed, between the four of us. We have 70 at Westpaw. But it takes a team to make, produce, sell product. And so there's a chance for us really to lean into diversity and be intentional in how we hire and promote in the company. And we have similar things where we look at our current, what's the company or the environment that we employ in, and how can we do a better job there.
And Applied Materials, we're currently sitting about 825 employees in the Flathead Valley, and I can certainly tell you that we have changed the diversity of the Flathead Valley forever as a single employer. Obviously, we didn't do it alone, but we certainly had our hand in it. But to us, in pure manufacturing, a lot of that is diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, making sure that everybody's heard. And in a company our size, that's extremely important, because we do have from the entry-level employees to PhDs, and everybody has good ideas, is that important person in the company. They have to be able to understand that why. That's a key element of it, and then be able to bring their thought up through the organization. So having that diversity of thought instead of certainly in any sort of siloed thinking or siloed approach to all of our problems inside the company.
Thanks, Ken. Mark, did you want to input? Okay. Any other questions?
Hi, my name's John. Just curious I know workforce is a huge issue, huge problem in a lot of industries. Well, what would you say your biggest workforce challenge is?
Having them. Yeah, hiring's hard. This is, in fact, I was having a comment just the other day with a banker that we just went through a Series A raise, and it was a very hard raise, right? So I've been 35 years of being a tech entrepreneur. There have been some easy times to raise, and when it's easy to raise it's really hard to hire people because it's a hot economy. And vice versa, if you have a tough raise, right, typically you've got pick of the lot for employees. We closed our Series A back in late January, and I've been able to attract one net new person to our company in the last 6 weeks. We're not getting the resumes, right? So it's this is a tough economy to hire in.
So I've learned recently, coming to Westpaw, we have an advantage because we're a leader in the industry, and we're currently recruiting for a higher level position. We're getting really good response because those folks know about the Westpaw brand and company and the culture. So that, once you get that, it is quite a competitive advantage when you're in the marketplace for labor. It still is a challenge, though.
Yeah, and for us, it's having the employees, right? Having that available workforce. We entered the pandemic at 425 employees. We exited it at 825. So that kind of growth in the middle of the largest labor shortage we've seen in our lifetimes was a challenge. But really, it was all about diversifying yourself. Flathead Valley, I know oftentimes not thought of as a manufacturing hub, but there's 2 semiconductor equipment manufacturers, countless gun manufacturers, the world premier trailer manufacturers for first response. There are thousands of manufacturing jobs in the Flathead Valley. So when you're trying to double your workforce, it was a heck of a challenge. So just having that workforce available, and then the real second challenge to us was that training. Because without, I think it was you that said it, without that training, you don't have retention. Before we stood up a really high-class training organization, our retention was very poor. Retention went to 100% overnight as soon as we saw that click of shifting to a concentrated, focused training. So, now getting that training outside of the organization, so we're not the ones doing that training, and the employees are ready for manufacturing ready type of individuals when they show up at the door, I think is key going forward.
On the silversmith side, anybody know any Western bright cut master silversmiths that I could hire real quick?
6 in my family.
Oh, good. It's tough, and we're in a small community west of Billings, and so we really can't afford to pay the wage to have an hourly employee drive 30 minutes outside of Billings to come and work for us. And so we look to the community first, but we're in Stillwater County is the highest paid per capita county in all of Montana, so we're competing with the mine. So it's a unique ecosystem down there. At the same time, it's on us to promote our brand and make it the place that people want to come and learn how to be a Western bright cut silversmith. So, and that's what we're doing a lot lately, is going out into the community and holding to local colleges that have art programs, basically, and showing them that we are here and we'd love to bring you on board and train you to become our next best employee. So it's about focusing back out into the community and finding those new people.
Thanks, Lance. Any other questions? Well, my takeaway is to be a leader in manufacturing in Montana. It sounds like you guys are telling us to be good to your community. All right, let's give these guys a big hand.